In 1997, Bill Clinton issued an apology for a study done on syphilis at Tuskegee. In this study, the United States Public Health Service withheld adequate treatment from a group of black men who had the disease to advance their research. These men and their families were dealt suffering that stemmed from systemic racism, and it seems that not much has changed over the years. The Physicians for a National Health Program, or the PNHP, states that Black and brown people are nearly 3 times more likely than white people to contract COVID-19 and 1 to 2 times more likely to die from the disease. Systemic or structural racism, according to the NAACP, is the rules, practices, and customs once rooted in law with residual effects that reverberate throughout society. The Economic Policy Institute's wage report notes that Black workers made 14.9% less than their white counterparts in 2019. According to the Urban Institute on April 10, 2020, structural racism results in unequal access to health and opportunity social determinants that drive the racial health inequities laid by COVID-19. These discrepancies show how COVID-19 has only exacerbated a more permanent issue to reckon with. By discerning the causes of systemic racism, we'll be able to evaluate its effects and discover solutions to preventing governmental institutions from further causing racial inequality to grow rampant in the United States. In 1841, David Ruggles was violently ejected from refusing to move from the whites-only train car. Ruggles sued the men, and a judge ruled against him, establishing Jim Crow laws. The first cause of systemic racism is embedded in the Constitution. According to the Roosevelt Institute on March 18, 2019, Roosevelt fellow Todd Tucker suggests the framers of the Constitution forged a Senate with a pro-white bias, causing small states such as Wyoming, Vermont, Alaska, and North Dakota to have proportionately more representation with a lack of minority voters. According to the Intelligencer on August 10, 2020, whites have 35% senators per million people, while blacks have 26%, Asian Americans 25%, and Latinos just 19%. Senate votes in smaller states with a low population and dominated by white majority count more than Senate votes in large states with a higher population where most minorities reside. A filibuster obstructs progress in legislative assembly, and this procedure allowed by our government institutions almost killed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. By its very nature, a filibuster allows those in power to protect their power. No fully featured Civil Rights Act had ever survived a filibuster on Senate floor. The second cause of systemic racism is the two-party system. According to fairvote.org, racial minorities and the poor have the right to vote, but are often denied their fundamental right to representation. People in a two-party system tend to view systemic racism as a political argument rather than a repugnant issue that must be dealt with. When one party declares anti-racism policies, it incentivizes the second party to oppose them, and nothing becomes accomplished. It is easy to believe systemic racism is mitigated because of the success of candidates like Kamala Harris and Barack Obama, when they are only exceptions, not the rule. According to Medical Express on September 17, 2020, medical mistrust for HIV care is negatively affecting Black women in the southern United States. And it is no wonder with the disparity in health treatment Black women receive when compared to their white counterparts. The first effect of systemic racism is the lack of funding allotted to alleviate racism. According to AmericanProgress.org, Black inventors and innovators are not getting the same investment and support their white equivalents receive. leading to more disproportional outcomes and racial equality. Black inventors and innovators must be given the same support as white equivalents to propose remedies to address systemic racism. Structurally racist institutions will continue to exist if the government continues to cease adequate funds. The second effect of racism is the public downplays systemic racism's significance. According to a survey conducted by Wall Street Journal and NBC News, between July 9th and 12th, 2020, 56% of the voters believe that American society is racist. Brenda Lee, in association with Vision Strategy and Insights, who worked with public opinion strategies and Hart Research, mentions Blacks are more likely to see systemic issues as the root racism of the United States, while whites see this issue as a result of the behavior of a few bad apples. White voters are upholding the ideas that brought these structurally racist institutions into existence. People must recognize systemic racism in the current system to fight it. To properly address systemic racism, you can raise concerns of this issue to your state legislators and senators. On September 3rd, 2020, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Congresswomen Ayanna Pressley and Barbara Lee proposed the Anti-Racism and Public Health Act. According to PNHP, this act would establish a Center on Anti-Racism and Health. The act would allow the Center for Disease Control to research health disparities, eliminate racial divides in health outcomes, create a law enforcement violence prevention program to combat police brutality, and reform government institutions with a pro-white bias. You can help by locating your state representative's office's address by visiting the link I can provide for you if you email me afterwards. Afterwards, just complete the outline of this letter I prepared for the states of Tennessee, Pennsylvania, or Georgia, and mail the letter to the address provided. The second solution involved educating others about systemic racism. I urge you to act. Reach out and connect with your community. You can begin by educating children in classrooms so they build upon current ideas. Such ideas may build on currently proposed plans, which include adding more Senate seats, dividing California into 7 states, and extending representation to United States territories. A Data for Progress analysis found a 52-state Senate would still give whites decided overrepresentation, but would ameliorate the injustice, showing the need to enact several plans. Please share these issues with your elected officials as well. We were able to discern the causes of systemic racism, evaluate its effect on racial inequality in the United States, and discover elements to this growing problem. We conclude the Anti-Racism and Public Health Act will continue its uphill battle against structural racism. Whether it emerges as a winner depends on what you choose to do after today. I urge you to act, educate others about systemic racism, and stand up against it. According to the Roosevelt Institute, Tucker seeks to hold the United States to its own foundational ideals, liberty and justice for all, and so should we.